Welcome to Uncle's Channel. Thanks for watching today, and let's continue our journey to finish every single Game Boy and Game Boy Color game. And today focus on a game called Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball Game Boy Edition, because this game was from pretty much every system out there for the time anyway, and I think the quality varies, depending on which system you get it on. And just like all the other, multi-platform games that came to the Game Boy, this one is probably the most bare bones of all of them. But at the same time, it does have its charm. It does try to have, some fun aspects to it, and it also tries to have stuff for the hardcore baseball fanatics out there, like player stats, changing your lineup, choosing from, a plethora of teams inside the game as well. But as far as like my standpoint is going to go, I'm going to evaluate the game from being a not really big sports fanatic. And so I knew almost nothing about Ken Griffey Jr. except that he played baseball. Even looking at the cover right here, I didn't know he played it for the Mariners. I learned that inside the game. And I learned a lot as far as like about baseball in general, I guess. But this particular game did get moved up in the queue a good bit because Kilroy was here 86 requested on my earlier videos. So naturally moved up in the queue. If there's a game that you would like to see me cover sooner than later, let me know the name of that game in the comments down below. And just like Ken Griffey Jr. Presents Major League Baseball Game Boy Edition, I'll move it right on up. But let's go ahead and start the video off by looking at the box art for the game first. And the box art does have Ken Griffey Jr. right there on the cover. He is part of the Seattle Mariners. He has a little S for Seattle on his hat. And the Mariners written on his jersey there, swinging that baseball bat because that is what baseball players do, and the fuzzy crowds in the background. And that is really symbolic for the actual game because the crowd that you see in the game when you get a home run, the ball flies above the crowd, that crowd is always blurry as all get out. And so the cover, very, very accurate. Now, when you load the actual game up here, the title screen does remind us yet again is the Game Boy Edition. I don't know who would be confused about that. You're literally playing on a Game Boy. But it's one of the only games I've ever seen that actually includes like Game Boy Edition on the title screen here. But overall, it's a good image of Ken Griffey Jr. You can see which team he plays for. It's pretty similar to the actual cover of the game. And then there's the background music that's playing over the title screen. And the background music is not great. But you're either going to love it or hate it because the song plays almost non-stop throughout the entire experience. There's not many songs on this particular soundtrack. I know at one point they do play the Take Me Out to the Ball Game, the core baseball song. I heard it one time in the entire experience. It played for like, I don't know, 10 seconds because it's literally just the main part there. But when you press start, there are 5 different game modes that you can choose from. There's the exhibition, which is going to be just simply a 1 versus 1 match or 1 team versus 1 team match. And if you finish that, you've technically beaten that aspect of the game. And that's what we're going to consider beating the game because we're not going to go through the longest game mode because it seems mostly pointless and the credits don't even roll after that either. And then there's the All-Star. You can play an All-Star match, which is going to be the exact same gameplay as the exhibition. Then there's the Home Run Derby, which you get to compete against Ken Griffey Jr. himself for the highest number of home runs. Then there is the World Series and Playoffs, which is going to be the same type of game mode as the exhibition, except, this is for the World Series. And then you can do a season mode. In the season mode, and make sure I got the right number here because I was like, holy cow, this is a lot. The season mode has 162 games that you can play through. That would be, hours and hours. We're talking about like possibly the longest game on the Game Boy if you went through the entire season. And even after you finish the entire season, the credits are not going to be any different or roll any different than if you just simply beat the exhibition. And so that's what we're going to focus on for this game, is winning an exhibition game mode. And so when I load up here, like, I don't know a heck of a lot about baseball, and so like I'm going through the teams here, and there are a lot of teams. And so I end up choosing the Mariners because that's who Ken Griffey Jr. played as. If I'm playing the Ken Griffey Jr. game, I might as well play as Ken Griffey Jr. himself. So I pick them, and then you get to choose your opposing team, and I choose the Blue Jays because the Blue Jays are one of the meanest birds in nature. They're always bullying the other birds out there at our bird feeder. And so I was like, what better enemy than the Blue Jays? And so I have no idea of any players on either one of these teams except for Ken Griffey Jr., but that's who I chose to play as. Now, in the options before the game starts up, you can choose like your lineup or your bullpen or check the statistics, but none of this means like anything to me, so I just simply go with the basic or base team that they give me. Now, when the game itself starts up, you do get like a little preview screen here, and it says 58,823 people are attending the game. And I was like, that's a lot of people. So I looked up. I was like, how many people attend an average Major League Baseball game? And in 2023, the average attendance was 29,295 people. And so like this game here is like, holy cow. Like when I'm playing the game, I really bring the crowds out for the baseball play in here. Now, when you start off, you have multiple innings you go through, just like in any baseball game. And when you start up here, I'm initially pitching, so I have my little man on the pitcher here, and the opposing team is down here getting ready to bat. And you can see the batting animation's pretty darn good. The pitching animation's a little bit small back there. But one thing I really like about all the characters in the game, and this is going to go especially when we get to the outfield in a second, is all the characters have like a little white glow around them, or a little white highlight. And that's going to make it way easier to sort of track the characters in the field, track the characters on the bases, and just simply see the screen a lot better, because the Game Boy, especially some of these games that tried to give as much detail as they could around the screen, it got a little convoluted. But this one, like, you never have any doubt where your character is, and I really like the glowing effect here. Maybe it's like Ghost Baseball, but to me, it was a really beneficial aspect. And so, like, while you're pitching here, you can actually see like different little things out to the side. It tells like your number of strikes, your number of outs, the number of balls that you've had. It also tells you like which players you're playing as. Has a little camera off to the side, showing like who's on which bases. And as far as like the pitching skills, you can go back left and right. And if you, depending on like which direction you're holding the D-pad, so like which direction you're going to throw the ball, if you hold the D-pad back, the ball goes a whole lot slower. And I get better with the mechanics of pitching as the game continues. But at the start off here, I'm not that great. And in the first inning, like, my gosh, he gets out. Let's see how many points he got in that first inning. They got 5 points in the first inning on me, which is a significant lead. But I did learn the mechanics of the game here. So, like, you can see when they hit the ball, it goes into the outfield. And I guess there's the infield. And when the ball's in the infield, you have control of a single character. And your character is highlighted to the large white dot on the map. And the little ball is sort of like a cross to a degree. And so, like, you can control a character in the infield. But as soon as the ball goes to the outfield, you get control of a different character in the outfield. And you have to run after the ball and catch it that way. I threw him a couple home runs, and he got some normal points off of me. I didn't do great, but once you capture the ball, you can throw it to whichever base you want, depending on the D-pad that you've selected, and that's how you're going to get the character out. It took me a little while to finally get him out, but like I said, he got 5 points. And then it was my turn to bat, and I didn't do, like, awful, but the batting mechanics I didn't really understand as well. One button, of course, hits the ball, and I tried always for a home run, or you could bunt the ball. I pretty much only bunted the ball like once or twice because, that's no fun in that. Like, you want to see how far you can hit the ball. And so, really, when you're batting, there's not a whole lot to do in the game. You just simply swing the bat, hit the ball, and then all the running is automatically done for you. And you sort of have to hope that you don't get out once you've hit the ball. But I never hit a home run. I did have the bases loaded pretty much almost the entire time. And I just simply get 1 point at a time by doing the bare minimum, by hitting the ball into the outfield. The closing of the first inning was 5-7, so I was doing better than I thought I was. But that was the closing of the first inning. And then when it comes to the little in-between screen here, it only said 3 innings. And I was like, holy cow, like, this game only has 3 innings to go through? I was like, this is great, in my opinion, because, I'm not a big baseball fan, and I was trying to, finish up the finishing of this game. And I was like, there's only 3 innings. I can finish this game up in no time. Trust me, I'm going to be pretty darn disappointed here in a little bit. But in the second inning, I did get a strikeout of their particular player. And I may have got one of those in the first inning as well. But I noticed particularly when you do that, like, how angry the player gets. And it's like, I don't know, it gives you like that little bit extra joy knowing that you made the other team so upset to be struck out. And it's that little extra personality that makes the game a little bit better, especially for us non-baseball fans out there. But then the game does to the opposing side to me. He hits yet another home run. And when he gets to the home base, look at the little Macho Man move he does here. His little dance, his little, his little muscles there as well. It's pretty obnoxious. And so, like, you get both sides. You can be on the receiving end and you can get annoyed, or you can be on the giving end and, annoy the computer, even though I know the computer doesn't actually care. I like to think that I'm annoying the imaginary Game Boy computer that's out there. And you can't do multiplayer on this game either. I just realized that. So, like, there's no way to annoy your other player through a link cable. That's actually a pretty big missing feature for this game. This game should have multiplayer. But then my batting turn does come around, and really nothing special. I sort of catch him up in points a little bit. It's pretty darn close. Nothing really happens of note in my batting part. In the third inning here, I did do really great when I was on the outfield. I was able to catch the ball. I was able to get a strike, and I caught the ball again. He didn't stand a chance. He was out like that. And then when it came my turn to bat, I just simply needed 1 point, at least I thought, in order to take the lead, because I thought there were only 3 innings in the game. And I did really, really excellent. I actually was up by 6 at the close of the third inning, and I thought I'd won the game. And then the disappointment hit when the 4th inning began. I was like, all right, so we are doing the full 9 innings here. And truth be told, in the 4th, 5th, and 6th inning, nothing happened in the game. And what I mean by that is, like, in these innings, they didn't score at all. and I didn't score at all. We just simply continued getting the opposing team out, and really, really boring for someone spectating this particular game because we were just going through them like that. The 7th inning, they actually scored a couple points, and then it became my turn. I actually got a bases-loaded home run, and what a nice little victory here, because you can see my little character doing his little macho man dance. I have the 3 players off to the side because I had fully bases loaded. This is the ultimate home run. See, I don't even know the terminology here. Home run victory screen, and I was feeling pretty darn good about it. In the 8th inning, the opposing team got a home run, feeling less good, so they sort of repay me back. I actually got 0 points in the 8th inning, and in the 9th inning, I'm actually still up here, and they began to catch up a little bit as far as like racking the points up. But then when my turn starts, since I was still ahead, I of course win the match, and then a little newspaper screen pops up here, which is going to be our closest thing, what this game has to credits, and it's going to say that I won the baseball game. You know how like everybody used to check the newspaper for who won the local baseball games? I am now officially in the newspaper. And so that is going to be considering finishing the game. We won one full match going through here, but if you want to do like a completion of the game, you could go through the entire season, and you could spend 40, 50, 60, 80 hours going through the entire season, and it would take you an eternity. And then even at the close of it, you might not even win the season. So, you know, it could be a big wash there. If you are a dedicated enough baseball player to want to go through all that, there are probably better baseball games out there to invest your time in, if I was guessing. Like I said, all the other modes are going to be the same type of game except for the Home Run Derby. And with the Home Run Derby, all you're going to go through is simply you get to watch Ken Griffey Jr. Bat, and he's going to get all these home runs, and you get to bat and see if you can get just as many home runs. I was not able to, but it was 8-2 at the final score. But overall, the Home Run Derby is the only other like different game mode inside the game. So let's talk about the game as an overall. Now, from a non-baseball fan here, the game is probably a 4 out of 10, maybe a 3. It's not great. I do like how the players glow. I do like the mechanics of like how to control the infield, the outfield, controlling the pitching and whatnot. The batting side of things was a little bit on the dry side. There really wasn't a whole lot to do for that. If you were like really into baseball, the season mode, that's really cool. The individual stats and individual players, swapping your lineup out and looking in the bullpen, all that's cool and probably knocks it up to maybe like a 5 out of 10, 6 out of 10. But like I said, there are other baseball games that are out there that I think would probably be a better use of your time, especially like nowadays. On the Game Boy, this may be top-notch baseball, but current day, probably no reason to go back to this particular version of Ken Griffey Jr. baseball or this particular Game Boy game baseball in general. I mean, the SNES version of Ken Griffey Jr. is probably leagues ahead of this particular one, no pun intended. And there's not many baseball puns that I can make because, like I said, I know very, very little about the sport. But overall, like I said, those are my rankings for it. It doesn't take too long to go through a single match. But, if you enjoy baseball, give it a try at some point if it seems down your alley. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to like and subscribe to the channel. Check out my other videos listed up above and go out there, find a great game to play. Simply have a great rest of the day.